Alright, it's time to bring out the hat. Tinfoil hat would look bad on a green screen. You see, by now everyone knows that Riot has kinda been known for their spaghetti code. I mean, it is common to have nasty bugs in all sorts of live games. But somehow, in Riot's case, with League's engine, which they have made themselves, it took them a while to clean up all the dependencies. What I mean by this is that after you altered one champion, another champion would totally fall apart, you tweak a skin and suddenly you can't lock in the champion in the game, or you tweak the numbers of the base game, which made Xerath be able to kill the box that runs the variables of the game, meaning that he can destroy the entire game. Literally, as in it would just crash. And yes, all of these are bugs that actually happened. Which is the reason why old Mordekaiser became so legendary. His bugs were plenty. But over the many years as League's engine evolved, it also spawned certain side projects that also utilized the same engine. And of course, we are talking about one project that became a standalone game, which is Teamfight Tactics. I'll be honest, how did that game manage to utilize the same engine and keep doing it to this day, while also porting it to mobile, is beyond me. We are definitely talking about some kind of dark magic. But as a result of sharing the same engine, occasionally TFT also has to deal with similar spaghetti, which made League infamous. Though in most of the cases, TFT's bugs are not that bad. Yes, sometimes the scaling is totally broken, sometimes a champion's ability fires multiple times, and early on you were able to duplicate items. Those bugs were definitely something, but in the latest set, which is the KO Colosseum, also sometimes referred to as Set 15, something interesting started happening. People started noticing that this game, which has always been about altering your chances, has had its chances altered. Now normally, this would be an accusation of someone who doesn't fully understand how the odds of TFT work. But not this time. This time, a lot more players agree that the rerolling in the current set is weird. And so, let's dive into this. As I mentioned, almost every day now we get a new post where someone reveals that they got really weird odds for their reroll comp, where even after burning dozens of gold looking for an uncontested unit, they wouldn't find a single one. Now, in TFT, you have to understand how the odds work. With the funny part being that we don't really know how specifically it all works. Riot never showed anyone their code for obvious reasons, but people generally have a good understanding. Every level, the game shows you the odds of hitting certain rarities in your shop. And every time you roll, each individual slot in the shop has a chance of hitting that rarity. After which, the game pulls out a random champion of that rarity from the available pool, unless some exceptions apply. Meaning that if, for example, you are looking for Ahri and someone else is already playing her, because the other player got those Ahris out of the pool, when you land on the 3-cost rarity, you are more likely to get someone else. Because there are other champions who are still waiting for the pool, and there is a higher chance of you getting them. But this, of course, also works in reverse. If every other 3-cost champion is being played by someone else in the game, and nobody is playing Ahri, because all the other champions were taken out of the pool should be full of Ahris, which means there is a higher chance that you, as well as everyone else, finds her. But here's the thing. That's not what it feels like in Set 15. Here, people started noticing it quickly. Even if nobody is picking Kayle, and you played Kayle reroll, somehow it was really hard to 3-star her. Even if no one else played Jhin and you wanted to 3-star him, somehow, once again, it was difficult to do so. As an example, here is someone who went for an uncontested Kai'Sa. Now, whether she was actually uncontested, I'm not sure if we know. But through these stats, you can see that after rolling it down, they were supposed to find 10 of them. And they found none. And sure, in TFT, low rolling is definitely something everyone should be aware of. Simply said, there is the chance that this can happen. But in all the other sets, it simply didn't happen as often as it does here. This is something people started feeling, and I'll be honest, I felt it too. I'm a guy who really likes to play the crew. Even after the nerfs, I simply find the crew satisfying to play, with that entire comp being all about rerolling. The way you play this is that you simply scout a lot. And when you are sure that the air is clean and no one else is playing crew, that's when you can go crazy on the rerolls. The thing is, there were far too many cases where the completely uncontested Sivir just would not appear in my shop. Funnier than that, it seemingly didn't appear for anyone in the game. You see, normally I am comfortably able to hit diamond every set. So is this the reason I am still stuck in plat? Oh, most definitely. But funnily enough, my great skills are not the only ones that got crippled. Because this entire time, the conversation really started rolling when Dehua posted this tweet. I feel like schizo posting, but I have completely unfounded theory that something is bugged in certain reroll things. Like really seeing genuinely crazy generational low rolls this patch with different reroll lines. I'm probably just super schizo though. Someone help me out of the insane asylum. For context, we are talking about a high-ranked challenger player here. They are all in the asylum. Here, it is one thing to simply feel this way, but it is an entirely different thing when so many people agree with you so quickly. And it's not just random people, we are talking about people who reached Master many times before. Well, suddenly, that opened the door for speculations. And the speculations did arrive. In fact, some of them turned into conspiracies. My favorite conspiracy that recently was brought up again actually originated 3 years ago. It all started with this thread on Reddit, where someone theorized that TFT is trying to give you perfect 50% win to keep you playing for longer. You'd never climb, you would only grind. Is it because the MMR system actually works and it is good in TFT? No, there is something else in play. Of course, they could only achieve this with RNG seeding. Now, seeding is actually a real mechanic that a lot of video games use. You see, a truly random number essentially does not exist. Even if you tell a computer to generate a random number, they still have to land on a specific number through ones and zeros. In other words, they generate a number by only saying yes or no, nothing in between. So to help this algorithm feel a bit more random, they need a more complex way to do these calculations, which is why some games utilize seeds. Especially Pokemon games. Pokemon games lied with RNG the entire time. And you can notice this if you use an emulator. If you save in an emulator and then you make a move, no matter how many times you pick that move, the outcome is always gonna be the same. Because the seed decided whether you are gonna crit on that move at the beginning of the entire fight. And in a similar way, the conspiracy believes that every game, TFT generates a different seed at the beginning. Not only is this the seed that determines the reroll chances, which mind you is definitely possible, but also this seed would specifically skew the odds against the players who win too much, so that they would lose and get the perfect 50% win rate. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a crazy theory. Thankfully, the other conspiracies are a lot tamer. Like some people believe that the crew trait could actually screw up the odds of rerolls. Because after someone hits a 3-star of a crew in a game, the odds of their specific shop are tweaked so that they find other crew members more often. How does this work under the hood? We actually have no idea. But there is the chance that something could screw up there. Another theory is that Lulu can break the odds. Because if you buy Lulu, you can essentially decide what unit she transforms into. So who knows, maybe that is the mischievous mechanic. But nevertheless, outside of these conspiracies, the odds of TFT's set 15 were still odd. And so people started doing their own research. In one, we got a person who analyzed all of their units with a lot of math. And they essentially figured out that all of their rerolls are in the expected range. So why do people feel like the low rolling is happening so frequently? Well, eventually, Mordog gathered up the team and they looked into this. Outside of just running through the code and making sure that nothing is bugged, They also started gathering a lot of videos to make sure that the uncontested Ari was actually uncontested. They needed to be as objective as possible, meaning that they needed a lot of proofs. And at the end of announcing that they are looking into this, Murdoch tweeted this. That being said, even if we ultimately find nothing is wrong, that won't matter. It's clear there is some improvements we could make to the experience and perception around it. So yes, even if it turns out that the numbers are fine, are they really fine? Well, in the end, it turns out the odds were fine, but things may still not be fine. Here's the thing. After the research was done and the team confirmed that the numbers were not wrong, people started thinking, well, why does it feel like the odds are really bad? One thing people should keep in mind is the bias towards their own games. This is something that is decently common, and people found out about it through more research. Froden might be the best example here. He thought he was in a game where he rolled dozens of times without finding Yumi. But after reviewing his clip, he did lose 80 gold, but he only rerolled 11 times, with the rest being spent on units. So his real RNG wasn't actually that bad. But then on the other side, you also get people in these situations, where people roll 40 times with 25% chance of getting a legendary, without finding a single legendary? Yes, I would say that was a bug. But another thing is that set 15 also has a lot of viable reroll comps. For example, nearly every DPS 1 cost can be used for a late game reroll comp. From the 2 costs we have Gangplank, Kai'Sa, Katarina, Mundo and Jhin, who are nearly in every game. That is 5 separate reroll comps, all of which are pretty good. And then from the 3 stars we have Malzahar, Ahri, Yasuo, Caitlyn, Darius, Jace and Swain. There are simply a lot of reroll comps, and that is not including crew. And so people are simply more likely to run into low rolls this set. And this is something the TFT team is currently focusing on. Yes, the numbers should be good, unless that one clip actually proves there is a bug. Which means that yes, there is the possibility of a bug, but even if the numbers are correct, people don't feel that way, and so something has to change. Personally, I think this entire issue comes down to a different thing. This set, we simply have a lot of ways of generating new units, be it through augments that just give you units for free, or from all the loot drops that give you units instead of gold. The thing is, every time you generate a new unit like that, it is not taken out of the pool. So it is highly likely that the pools simply stay full of all the units you don't need, even if those units are contested. Meaning that the chances of you getting what you want are still lower, even if nobody else is playing it. But hey, that's just a theory, a conspiracy theory, which is something I did not think we would be talking about today. But at least my theory is possible. It is not like the one saying that Riot is trying to keep players playing TFT for all eternity.